Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. Today, I have returned safely from the beach. I'm still shaking sand out of everything I own, my children. I don't know how the sand got in my bed here. I blame Lily, who lives near the beach. I blame Becky, who went to the beach the weekend before me. But I've returned. I am okay. I'm preempting my sisters not asking me okay because I know you were worried. But Becky, how are you doing?
I mean, the cicadas are upon us. Brood X is waking up. And like as of this morning, when you go outside, it's the deafening sound of the cicada symphony. You were walking down the street, they just like fall on you. Like
they are like the size of pigeons at this point.
They're enormous. And honestly, I mean, nature is beautiful. This is disgusting. And we're just at the beginning of it. So I just honestly just Google Brood X.
17-year experience, Beck.
I think it's more than that because instead of being like millions or billions, there are going to be trillions of cicadas, I've heard.
Okay, so it's more than once. All right, Lily, how are you doing? What's happening?
I'm good. I am so excited for this episode.
Not as excited as I am. Okay, so take it down a notch.
All right, so why don't we just
my excitement?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. We can't wait any longer.
Okay, so I want to introduce the most special guest imaginable. She's a sister to me. Sorry, Lily. She would be like my non-biological sister. Shy likes to differentiate sometimes between. But so I want to introduce Sofia Barclay, who is. She's an actress. I actually don't know which one you use.
Of the stage and screen.
Of the stage and screen, but she is so much more than that. She is a force. She is a good human. She is a light that shines in my life. And she has some serious street cred. Like, this is actually a pretty big deal that she's on our show. She has performed, she trained in New York. She is a stage actress and although she's performed in some very prestigious productions, in the National Theatre in London alongside Olivia Colman, she's also done like slightly less prestigious things like Have a Guerrilla Art Space with Me in New York that, had, as Alan Rickman once said when he visited, there's a hole in the floor. It's like one of my most favorite memories, literally holes in the floor. And we're going to get into some of her stuff that she is in right now because you're going to be seeing Sofia in upcoming movie Text for You that stars Priyanka Chopra and Sam Ewan. And today we're going to talk about her appearance in the brand new Peacock / Channel 4 show We Are Lady Parts. And as well, we're also going to tease out a little bit of her appearance in season 2 of Ted Lasso. So this is a big one and like an emotional moment for me.
This
so
is
welcome,
also
Sofia.
the evidence that when we have guests on that are famous and we introduce each of the siblings and Becky says she is famous adjacent, this is
literally what I mean.
This is one of our validation moments. Like a lot of the times they're like, so, thank you so much. Well, Sofia, welcome to the show.
I'm so touched by that whole intro. I was like half dancing, half crying because it was taking me back to some of the best memories, but also like crying at how sweet and wonderful it was. Thanks, Beck.
Well, welcome.
And sorry, Shai, I do also think that Becky's my sister as well. So like I'm inserting myself in there.
That's
Which
great.
Is funny because Sophia's and I feel like we're sisters, and Sofia was at my wedding.
Yeah, it's funny how that happened. Because I was there, and obviously Lily and I, like besties. Shai, we did meet at the wedding. The other day when I texted you, you were like, "Nice to meet you." I'm like, "We've met. We totally hung."
I'm sure. I had both of my kids at their first wedding appearance at that wedding.
Use that as an excuse.
That's like a shield.
Don't even try.
Look, as an older,
I remember things about you that are so random, like your obsession with Star Wars, and you don't even remember that I was English.
Yeah. I outed you.
Wow, Becky outed me. Yeah, I was walking with Becky this morning, and I was like, so what do you think of Sofia's accent in the show? I was like, is that what she, like, and what do you mean? She is English.
She doesn't, like, her British accent's like, okay, it's not great.
Lily is like, oh, it's slipping, mate.
I was like, I was like, such an interesting choice that they picked her to play this English social media influencer.
It was a slightly confusing conversation until we figured out.
I thought you were from New Jersey. No, I don't know if that's true. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if.
I'll take that. I would really like it if when you watch Text for You that you're like, oh my God, maybe she is from New Jersey. Like that would be great. Let's do that.
Look, as an older brother, there's only so much you know about your like youngest sibling. And I'm going through that now with Becky. And I think you're going to help me on this journey now because Becky moving next door to me, I am learning things about her that I never knew. Like I'll call up Lily and I'll be like, hey, Becky likes this random thing. Or do you know that Becky's afraid of this thing? And Lily's like, yeah. And I'm like, no kidding. Wow, you're related to someone your whole life. I really didn't pay attention. And so
that's amazing.
What I want to hear about is I want to hear about these legendary days in New York, which is a period I saw Becky a lot during, and you'd hear about these long days and these long nights with you all working on this production in the production office of all these different places and shows.
Well, that's not what Sophia and I worked. We didn't work on those shows together. We worked on like the crazy gorilla stuff together.
On the gorilla
artwork.
Can I jump in here and say how my version of how me and Becky met?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, great. I'm going to do this. So this just
and then I will give you my version, and then I'll give you my version of how we met, which was right now.
Which is yesterday. Yeah, exactly. Over text message. No. So Becky and I met in New York. I want to say I'm terrible with dates, but I'm going to say it's circa 2000. More than with my technology. Yeah. Like
more than 10 years ago. I think it's 2009.
That sounds about right. Let's say it was 2009. And I will never forget, I was asked to get involved with the project that the Old Vic Theatre was running in New York as part of they have a really brilliant program called the Old Vic New Voices, which I think still runs. And what it is a arm of the Old Vic Theatre, which then supports and promotes new voices. So like new writers, new musical theatre directors, new actors and actresses, and it gives them a platform to create stuff and a little bit of money and space to do that. So I got asked to be involved with it, and I remember we walk in on like effectively day one with this whole room of people who've been kind of gathered to help in some shape or form. And like very quickly in this room of like 10 people, me and Becky and this other girl called Stella had decided that the other 9 people were useless and like very sweet and very darling, but had no clue how to run anything and how to like make anything happen, let alone run. And so like by the end of day one, Becky, me and Stella had decided, okay, Becky and I are going to produce. Stella will help direct and assistant direct, and everyone else is just going to be our runners. Like we effectively decided that there was a hierarchy, and we placed ourselves within the hierarchy.
It was a coup.
On a channel. It was like a total coup, and we hadn't actually planned it out. We just kind of like came to this. You know how there's like a phenomenon that happens around the world, like spontaneous inventions that happen in the same time around the world. It was sort of that. Like we hadn't really chatted or planned about it. We just all decided simultaneously this is what's going to happen. And so from day one, we got on like a house on fire, and the 3 of us ended up not only working with the Old Vic New Voices in this space, but actually got together with this brilliant actress and director called Eve Best, who was in charge of this particular project. And then she decided she wanted to stay in that space and keep creating projects for about 6 months while she was shooting in New York on Nurse Jackie, which Becky was involved with. And so me and Becky and Stella decided to make her dreams come true. And we spent 6 months learning from her and working with her and learning about not just the backdoor architecture of how to make theater work, which is basically a lot of hustle, but also the like very real front part of theater, which is like being right in the room with some of the most interesting creative people, watching them make art, promoting poetry, promoting all these kind of things. And it was like the most guerrilla, as Becky says rightly, but also magical time, like one of the most magical times in my life still to this day. And obviously Becky and I decided right then and there that we were like twins and we just ended up becoming like workmates and besties overnight. And it has just spiraled ever since.
That's awesome. And I think those formative experiences are so much better when there is that adversity, right? When there's 9 people in the room and 3 of you are competent. And like that's how you build those bonds. This is, and I think it makes perfect sense that your family, once you join our family, you're in our family. Like, now you've been on the show. You're in a whole other level.
I mean, I thought I was your family when I came to Becky's wedding, but apparently I had to go to a two-tier system.
You had to get on the podcast to be related to Shy. For Shy,
let's be clear.
Podcast is the threshold.
I'm not going to speak ill of anyone at Becky's wedding, but there are definitely some people that are there that are not part of my family.
But can I be part of the family now? Am I official?
You're in it. You're in it.
Yeah, no,
okay.
You're in it.
You're in it before you're on the show. But
yay!
anyways, okay. That's amazing, meeting Becky. Now let's talk about this unbelievable show for which Becky, Lily, and I got a sneak preview, but it will be dropping in the United States on Peacock on June 3rd. So when this episode drops, everyone has a few days to get their Peacock all subscribed to.
And if there was ever a reason, this show is the reason.
Yeah, this is the reason to subscribe to Peacock. It's fantastic. It is called We Are Lady Parts.
It's a fantastic show. It's really good.
It's about five Muslim women who all from different backgrounds and different family situations who are deeply connected to their culture and their identity, and also are in an awesome punk rock band. And I love music shows and music things in general. So I thought all of that was amazing. And then are at episode 4 and 5, which I think, and we're not saying this to suck up to you, and I'll tell you why I think so. If you'd like to know, you can interview us.
You didn't remember meeting Sophia. She doesn't think you're sucking up to her.
That's right. That's totally true.
I'll take it all though. I'll take it.
those 2 episodes, 4 and 5, are not only I think the best episodes of the show. They are the arc that makes this more unique than a lot of other shows where you're exploring the sort of familiar relation, coming of age, identity things. That whole situating of their identities within the context of social media and influencers, is very unique and powerful. And you play Zarina Z. Spoiler. We always spoil parts of the show, so just everyone be prepared for this. So Zarina Z, who is I would say you are, like, if you know anything about social media influencers, you kind of are what you say you are, as far as like us are concerned, but you end up being a kind of underhanded character, who
a catalyst, shall we say?
A catalyst. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, sure. Who writes a story about these women that really embellishes some of the more controversial elements, or as we say,
are they saying in the episode, it lacks nuance?
Yeah,
it lacks nuance. Yeah.
And you crushed it because your character has to be believable as an influencer. And the way you play, there's a scene where they show you talking to your Instagram followers, and it is like one of the best stand-ups of a social media influencer ever. It's so funny.
It's so well written. It's very well acted, obviously, in that moment, because you have to believe it. But they capture it well.
I'm so happy. And then you're both like seductive to them, and like actually romantically seductive to one of them, but also all business. And that I feel like you crushed it. And
thank you.
And this show is absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait for people to see it. So that's like
me too.
That's my rundown of it. I feel like I don't even have a first question. I just wanted to tell you what I thought.
Okay, great. I love it. Thank you.
Why don't we just open the floor up to Sophia just to
tell us about the show? Tell us how you connected with it. Give it help everybody who's listening understand more about this amazing show. That's my question.
I think great. Love it. I think you've given everyone like such a great flavor of it and I feel like what's amazing, and Becky and I spoke about this beforehand and have talked about it at length in general, is that yes, it's London girls who are Muslim, it's super specific, right? Like it's a very geographically and culturally specific. But I think the reason why people love this show is, yes, the writing's brilliant, the direction's brilliant, it's beautifully styled, like it's just so vivid. But and brilliantly acted, and I don't mean that about myself. I mean that about the main girls. But I guess why it's so brilliant is because it does place itself very much in the now, and it does place it very much in like issues and struggles that we all kind of come up against, and hilarious dynamics that we all kind of come up against. Like it's so specific, and yet so eternal and so appropriate to everyone. And I don't know why I love it so much. I think it's just a combination of simply basic, really good, beautiful writing and direction. It's written and directed by a woman called Nida Manzoor. And it's basically it's not her life in a very literal sense, but it's very much based on her experiences as a young Muslim woman living in London, working in the arts. So it's a kind of mishmash of her experiences that she's kind of written. And it's got a great story of how it came to pass, because she did a BLAP, which is like a very short film, I would say a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, actually, as a kind of like, for Channel 4, they do them as like a kind of comedy proof, like could this work as something? And then from there managed to turn it into a TV show deal with Working Title. And this is a huge, great thing for Working Title TV also, because Working Title, obviously, we know they've done the big English romantic comedies like Notting Hill and For Weddings. Like that's Working Title, like Identity.
So they're just a Hugh Grant vehicle normally.
I mean, they would hate me for saying that, but like obviously everyone.
Well, you don't have to say that. Like, you be professional.
Yeah. But like they are obviously famous for doing the brilliant English rom-coms with Richard Curtis, and this is like a total branch off in their TV department, and it's so fabulous, and to work with Nida is a dream. And then so for me, that's the story of how this show came to pass. And then with me, I actually had moved to LA last year, right before coronavirus happened. And as is the way with life, the minute you move away from London, you get a job back in London doing this show. And Zarina is my character. She is, like you said, a social media influencer. And I got to be really honest, I follow a bunch of social media influencers who I fucking adore. And also, it was just such a joy to be able to like take what I see on Instagram all the time and take the lunacy and the ludicrousness and the kind of like the stuff we love to watch every single day on Instagram, like the scrolling.
So the research was already done.
Yes, it's like we get to just have to do all that stuff that all of us do, like in between our daily lives when we're running around doing something. We like go on Instagram and look at these people. So it was such a fun opportunity for me to like actually to play, to get to like pretend to myself, because that's what acting is effectively, is me like running around pretending I'm that person. It's like I get to pretend to be that person for a day, and that feels amazing. And also to play someone who is. And again, I'm going to talk specifically about Zarina, but I mean this about the show. She's super layered. Like, she's not, like, some of the things she says, you're like, I actually really bloody agree with that. And some things she says, you're like, wait, what? That's sort of not okay. And I think that works so well with actually all the characters. So many of their angles and their hearts and their emotions and their thoughts and feelings are, like, bang on right. And then sometimes they say things, and you're like, wait, what? That's a little... And again, just comes back to great writing, doesn't it?
I think that the layers of Zarina are absolutely... That's such a great way to look at her, because I've spent a career, my day job is interacting with journalists on behalf of organizations. So I am watching all of the young women sit down and do the interview with Zarina, and all of my like emergency bells are going off. I'm like, what are you all saying? No, is this on what's on the record? What's off the record? How come you don't have a message about the history of the band? How come you don't have the things that Will and won't talk about? Like, I'm freaking out.
That's amazing.
And to Zarina's credit, okay, so to Zarina's credit, to her integrity, that when hold on, I gotta make sure, when oh my goodness, the drummer
Juliet. Oh, it's
Aisha,
real life.
Aisha.
Yeah. Sorry.
When Aisha asks her not to reveal anything about her sexuality, she respects that. And but what that also implied to me in that moment was, I'm like, well, if she respects that, that means she has rules, and that means everything else was on the record. So whatever, and so she definitely was coaching
She has
them
some code. Clearly, she has some code.
So she was.
But also, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, love.
No, I was gonna say, but also ultimately, she was right. They didn't hire a publicist. They didn't hire like PR and like us, on a level that is supposed to like sell their brand. They hired somebody, or they got someone to get them like known on social media, like an underground way, sort of, to get them seen and get gigs, and it worked. And so,
right?
So she was doing her job.
It's not brilliant writing,
because Becky asked about, like, Becky had a question in the notes about you playing kind of essentially maybe like a villain.
I mean, you are kind of a villain. You are kind of like, or a catalyst is maybe a better term, but
but catalyst is a better term. But also, isn't that how social media works? And isn't that the mess they got themselves into by trying to get famous on social media first? Like, that's what you get into, and it worked, which is I think the best part of the whole thing. It didn't
it's so layered. It's so layered. And also, like, on a total personal level, it's a joy to play Zarina, not just because I get to pretend I'm an influencer, but also because, like, I'm someone who, I think, well, actually all of us, right? But also particularly to actors, like, you're drawn to it because you're like a professional empath. But actually, like, in my life, I would love to be more of a narcissist, because I think narcissists do things better in some ways than I do. And actually, it's hilarious because Zarina is like brilliantly narcissistic in the sense, like, she knows exactly what suits her and she does exactly what suits her. And to play that person, I'm like, that's so cool. Like, I kind of want to be more like Zarina. I know that I don't mean ethically necessarily across the board, but there's something badass about that, and that feels really fun.
Well, she's what makes, like, one of the things that makes the show great, in addition to everything else we've stated, is that they are multidimensional characters, and so far everyone we've seen with like an arc has dimension to them. They're not just archetypes representing X, Y, Z, and that's what makes your character also interesting, is that it's not binary. She's not good, she's not bad. She's someone with a code. She's someone who's tough. She has a goal in mind. She burned a couple
she kind of goes for it.
Way,
and it's also really amazing that you say that, because I think people, when they look at the show, and certain people have already remarked, they're like, what about the fact they're all Muslim, and like how is the show handling that? And I think it's amazing because it's exactly what you've just said. The fact that all these women are Muslim, their faith shows up, and it's also not just them, it's a lot of women in the cast. Their faith shows up, all of them, in a totally different and varied way. And some of it's more obvious, less obvious, and it's all just part of their lives without being like the talking point or the thing that matters the most. And like, that's what I love so much about it, is like, yes, it's super important that all these women are Muslim, but also it's just like they're normal Muslim women, and where your religion and your culture just kind of peppers itself into every exchange you have, but some of it very heavily and some of it almost non-existently. And that feels really real to me and really important.
That's very authentic.
Not to be like worthy, but just like,
it's authentic. And it would be great to see more content that represents people in their
Becky, reminds me,
normalizing
when I was watching the show, I was like, this show is going to be successful, and this show is like, a lot of people are going to relate and like this show because of what Becky says. Often, Becky, you say, like, the more specific and niche you get, the more down to like the littlest detail, the more people can actually relate to something, as opposed to like making just like going really broad and boring. Like, if you get it so detailed and so specific, and then add punk music, because then we know Shy's in, then
well, it's also
by the way, you can buy the album.
It's really fun. I would love to, because I think the music is fantastic too.
I already bought it.
I love how Shy's like, I already got it. They're releasing an album, and it's so cool. It's written all by Nita's brother, and Nita as well, to be fair.
Oh, nice.
He's an amazing musician who taught all the girls their instruments, except for Ange. I think Ange played the guitar before she got signed. Ange is the main character. But all of the girls learned their instruments on the hop. Like, incredible.
Whoa.
So you got to, okay, we're going to circle back to, okay, well, you led me to one of my main questions I want to ask about, which is what I love about the music in this is that the music is not cliche. We've been talking a lot about music, movies, and television shows lately. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
I want to hear some of your favorites, please.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is the one that I'm presently obsessed with, and part of why I love it is that show hits every genre, and the lyrics are super smart. They don't go for anything easy. Often when there's like a musical episode of a show, it's like it's too on the nose, and that's why people don't like musical episodes of shows. What I love about the music for this, and it's done so intelligently because the punk songs by the band are legit punk songs. They're not sugar pop punk songs, which work in Josie and the Pussycats and work in other movies, but not for this. For them to be a credible punk rock band, they need to be punk rock songs that I cannot play for my dad because he'll just be like, "Oh my God, it's in my ears." But then they so smartly put in some incredibly well executed punk covers that are counterintuitive. There's 9 to 5. There's We Are the Champions.
So good.
That allow an audience member to like release a little bit if the punk music isn't their thing. They're able to connect. And so I wanted to ask, you gave me the answer, but anything more you can shed on the music and that strategy would be amazing.
Well, do you know what? I have less of an in on the strategy and more just to weigh in on what you said, which is I totally agree. I remember we went to the screening the other day and like we all started chanting because even the music they picked to supplement like the credits and the score, it's so good. We all started singing in the auditorium, like along with the songs, because you just hit the nail on the head. The original stuff they write is real rock stuff, and it's really raunchy in some ways, like Voldemort on my head scarf. Like it's really fucking, and like Honor Kill My Sister. Like they are punk. They're punk themes expressed in a punk way with punk music. But then also the ones they choose that you said that to tie it all together are ones that we all kind of have cultural references to and all have nostalgia to. So I just think it's just a genius move by Nita and her brother. And also I think really reflects their youth together. Like from what I can understand is like those are the things they bonded over and did when they were kids. So it's like it's a very natural evolution to put that and like make that the flavor of the TV show, which I think all of us respond to.
That's awesome. Becky it's unreleased, but Becky once let me and my musical life partner Howie write the theme song for a show she was creating that never got created.
Shush. Oh my God, I didn't know that. Can you send that to me?
It's an unreleased. No. It's an unreleased. It's an not the show, but the song came out. It was a fun spin.
It was very cute song.
Only.
Oh my God, I love that.
It was one of those situations where it didn't exactly turn out the way we. The song, I will say, our song part was the part that turned out all right. Right, Beck?
Yeah, that was very good.
Everything else was complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to come back to the role of religion in this show because I thought it was so beautiful how connected there's this amazing scene, and again it's at the end of this arc of your 2 episodes, which is part of why I think this is the most amazing part of the show, is the scene where the women are all confronting each other in the band room about the article and what the effect of this controversial article has on them as Muslim women in England. And after they've already absorbed their family's reactions to what have you done to us, that kind of a thing. And I watched this and was profoundly jealous that there is not a similarly nuanced film or show that I can think, or show, maybe there's a film, but definitely not a show that shows Jewish people interacting with their religion in this kind of dedicated and nuanced way. There are tons of Jewish characters on television. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, for example. And we've talked about this on our show before, so I'm bringing you in late into the conversation, but we have
great
particular guest. But we have been noticing lately that like the Jewish characters often, or the arc of the story of the show often use Judaism or Jewish culture as more of a foil and a thing that is giving them neurosis from their parents, like very much giving them neurosis from their parents, or Mrs. Maisel, which has brilliance in it. And I don't want to take anything away from the great actors in that show. But the way, like some of the times they show Maisel misbehaving most is these moments where she's trying to like suck up to the Jewish community in a way that and so I was really jealous. I'm like, I want to see, and I don't want to see it just for Jewish people, but speaking on behalf of Jewish people, I wish I could have something that showed people existing in the world and existing with their identity and not being ashamed of their identity, but wanting to be modern. That represented my folks.
It's a great example. Like this show, I feel like is a shining example of like what I hope other content aims to achieve.
Oh, guys, I'm speechless.
There's a scene where Syra who is, I think, of the band, the most compelling character. I mean, they're all awesome, but Syra to me is like Amina's the main character, but Syra's kind of like she's the John Lennon or the muse of the band, right? And there's a scene where she's praying in the morning. I don't know if it's in the last episode or if it's
the second to last. It's like one of the opening. It's like
it's in the 5th episode.
And she has a very hard relationship with her family, and she's this iconoclastic character, right? Like she's writing songs that sort of, I would say like are
disruptive,
clashing, and no, but then also clashing with traditional values. But here she is, and she's praying. And to me, as someone who goes to synagogue, celebrates the holidays, does Shabbat every week, but also has my own struggles with my religion and my people and all of these things. I thought that was just such a beautiful, quiet scene. And I think it's one of the great strengths of the show. Like I said, I am jealous because of...
I love that you're using the word jealous because it's so... Well, I'm touched and speechless by everything you guys have said, and I love it. And I wish this does inspire a lot more people to do this kind of thing. But I just want to say that there's something so beautiful about the fact that you use the word jealous because, I don't know, I feel like one thing I adore about this TV show is it does make you want to be a part of that gang. Like the more you watch it, the more you want those friends, the more you want that vibe. And I think that to see brown young English girls be the one that you want to hang out with, like it's just phenomenal. That's the feeling that you get is you just want to be a part of it and you want to feel that warmth and that feeling of like community and sisterhood and all the other things. And that's great.
And I just want to interject to say that even the other girls, I don't know if you want to say like the more posh girls, the more traditional girls, that girl group, they're not bad people. And it just is showing you just like another type of like, maybe how they grew up or their traditions. And each individually, they're different in that group.
Or just like in every community, you're going to have like the judgy, cliquey girls. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Right.
They exist.
But they're not the mean girl. Like, you know what I mean? It's not the typical mean girls at the high school. And like, then she turns back on them. Like, it's not that typical dynamic. Nora's a really good friend. She has her own biases and her own judgments, and that might not be correct. And she might need to learn how to be a better friend, but she's a good friend and her heart's in the right place. And so, I think that is refreshing as well because, and they're also, if I'm not mistaken, also all Muslim, but all individually different in that group. Yeah. And I just think that was so interesting.
It's so good because actually what you just said is so brilliant in the sense that like, they're at a time in their lives, right? They're like mid to early 20s where like they are all learning what it's like to have to like negotiate those dynamics as well, like within the group and within friendships and family dynamics outside those things. So it's also pretty great, like just selfishly. And I know you guys love to talk about other movies and stuff. I was talking to Becky about this movie called The Climb that I saw and adore. And it's like, actually one thing I love about it is, yes, it's about a certain something, but it's also about friendships and renegotiating friendships and like learning how to figure out the new dynamics and friendships that happen as you evolve and get older, which is something I'm obsessed with as a person. But the fact that you saw that in that relationship, like, wow, they need to learn to do that better. And like watching them struggle and learn to do that with each other is such a joy.
Yeah, it's a masterful
and it's also
show.
Can I just say it's also an impressive, like maybe this is like British talent, but like an impressive 6 episodes. Like this is all done.
But I gotta say, let me jump in and say one of the things
there's a lot in there.
One of the things the Brits do so well is they go and they give you 6 great episodes of a show. And then maybe
there's no filler. There's no filler content. It's just everything in there is good and purposeful and driving the story forward.
Now, is this a one and done, or is it one of those things where they might do another series? They call it a series in England as opposed to a season.
Yeah, I think there is definitely talk of a season 2. I think nothing is confirmed yet.
Okay. Well, I hope we see more of your influencing face on it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, they have to bring. I mean, I think they have to bring Zarina back. Yeah. Because I want to know more. I want to know more about. I think I also want to know more about her and what's that like with her sort of trafficking in fame and
right.
It's like I think
because we're living in a world where actually influencers are still a new thing and how they manage their lives. Like they're still a bit of a mystery to most people. Like most of us don't know influencers. I don't know anyone who's an influencer like right off the bat. And like understanding how that world works. Like I think that's such a fascinating, we could talk about this forever, but like it's such a fascinating world that people are making a living off of social media, and like no one still knows how that happens, what's correct, what's incorrect, how that means for their life. Like, are they really these people? Are they lying? Like, it's social media and how to live and work on social media. It's still a new thing. Like, we don't know what's behind that. And like, that's the fascinating, like, drive. So,
how much of it is authentic,
it's totally something we could explore and see. And I would love to obviously jump at the chance to do it and learn more and explore more.
All right, that's it. We're starting the Zarina spinoff as of now.
That's funny. And also, by the way, she's the best. Like, I love the dressing on this. Like, the costume designer, the woman called Peacock.
I wanted to bring that up. Best dressed villain.
Like, the clothes.
She's unbelievably brilliant. She's a stylist as well as like a costume designer. And she's so cool. And it's literally the best. Like, we talk about Zarina being a villain, and I've played a lot of villains, like villains? What did you say that? I have a habit of playing very difficult brown women. Like, that's sort of my niche, as you guys say in America, like niche. Is what I'd say here.
But you're so nice.
I know.
Thank you.
It's so smiley and nice.
Well, it's probably because I know that probably people look at me and think I'm a villain, so I like go overboard trying to be sweet.
No,
and nice.
that's how good an actress you are, because you're so nice. That's like a good villain.
So actually what was amazing about this is that, like, yeah, I'm playing a villain, but I also get to play someone who has the best clothes. Like, all the other girls were stealing my wardrobe at the end of it. They're like, we want Zarina's clothes. Like, everyone, because you can take some stuff at the end.
Oh, really? You posted just the other day on your Instagram the outfit where it's like a suit, but it's like this oversized suit, but then you just have like this like tube, like it just.
That's the scene. That's the first scene that she appears in when you're in the cafe and she waves and she gets up and she's waving, and that is great.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And also they play the sort of like romantic music, because it's the moment where Aisha sort of like Aisha falls. I mean, that's a whole whatever. We can't recount the whole show. People should watch it. It's great. Now, the other most greatest feeling good shows ever created. The show that I swore I would never subscribe to Apple Plus. I was like, I will never do this. And then I had a couple of friends, including our dear friend Alana, who is both a contributor to our show and appears on it, but also one of our best listeners, our oldest friend, one of our oldest friends. And she, and so we watched it, and it instantly became like our show of the year last year, Ted Lasso. And you're going to be in Ted Lasso season 2. And we're just warning everybody, we're not going to get any secrets about the plot. So we're not going to waste time trying to get secrets about the plot. We promise you always, this is not an important news show. So you will get nothing timely or important. But we do want to hear about is, what is it like working with Brett Goldstein, Juno Temple, Jason Sudeikis, actors who I just want to believe they're as amazing as they seem based on.
I'm going to settle that for you right now. They're more amazing.
No.
Yeah,
Becky
can't even deal. Becky can't even deal with it. You know what I love about Becky is that she gets so excited she cries. So I'm like,
I do.
So
I get
fun
too excited,
fact,
I cry.
one of the things I didn't know about Becky is how much she blubbers all the time. I had no idea. Becky's like,
she has like a heart of
sister.
stone. She has a heart of stone, but the tears are right on the edge.
We're watching Mighty Ducks Game Changers, and Becky's like dripping down her face.
Let it out.
It's the best
I get
thing
too
about
excited,
her.
but it's actually true. If I get too excited, I cry. That's a real
It's
thing.
the best thing about her. It's like literally, I call her Hollywood Becky. Is like that. My nickname's Becky when we first met. It's because she's such a hard ass. And like she'd come in, like we were pretty hard ass because we decided everyone else was useless already at this point. But she came in and was like even more hard ass than like I had previously. Like I'm English, right? So like even if I'm trying to be hard ass, I'm still like apologizing around it and like saying, oh sorry, or like if it's okay, or like lovely exclamation points. And like Becky's just like no, she's so hard. And then to discover this part of her, which is like if she gets too touched, too emotional, too excited, she just starts crying. It's the most beautiful part of her and something I adore. Anyway, so to go back to the people on Ted
Also,
Lasso,
she's allergic to garlic.
Amazing.
Had no idea before she.
I'm becoming allergic to garlic.
And you didn't even have to go through having 2 kids to suffer that horrendous allergy. It's really okay. We're gonna have to talk about that offline. That's like a whole other thing. It's
fine. Okay, we'll
really
get back.
Frustrating, especially for people like us, where
like to eat.
Another
especially if you like to eat out of the garbage. It's really difficult.
That's a reference to something that we
no
didn't
ingredients
taste, but yes,
list on garbage food. Okay.
When you're a raccoon, it doesn't matter.
Tell us about working with those people.
Okay, so I had probably the best experience ever on that set. Like, I literally could not stop laughing. I'm pretty good. Like, I'm pretty great, actually. I'll give myself this credit. I'm pretty great at not corpsing, which is when you like laugh when you're not supposed to laugh, and you're being like, you're either on stage or on film, and you're like supposed to keep it together. I remember in The Mosquitoes, which is the show I did at the National with Olivia Colman and Olivia Williams. I remember one time, I'm the most proud I am of being a hard ass and not corpsing, just to show you this. I had the scene with this guy where we're like, I'm seducing him on stage, and I convince him to take his clothes off, and we take our clothes off, and we take naked pictures of each other and send them to each other on our phones. And we're doing this in front of 800 people. And I look over and I take off my underwear or whatever, and he takes off his, but we have stage underwear. And one day in like the middle of the scene, he like goes to take his pants off, and he just looks at me with these big eyes, and I can see that he's forgotten to wear his stage underwear under his underwear. But like, we're here and we're in the middle of the scene, and like they're expecting this to happen. And I just like played the scene while he was cradling his balls with his hands. It was amazing because I didn't drop the scene at all. And obviously we got off stage, and I was pissing myself laughing. Anyway, all that to say, here we are on set with Jason Sudeikis and Ted Lasso, and I had corpse. Couldn't handle it. Could not handle it. He was
sure
so
you weren't the first.
Funny.
And he didn't even cradle his balls.
He wasn't even naked and cradling his balls, and I was laughing to the point where I had to stop the scene at some point, just because he just has that American. Well, it's also not American, it's also who he is, right? It's just comedian's mind. He just will keep going with anything that his brain clicks onto that could be funny. And he'll just keep going at it until it's the point that everyone is laughing, like the camera crew, everyone, until everyone is just in tears. And like, it's got, even sometimes goes past the point of what makes sense, but everyone is just like laughing so hysterically and trying to like, just watch him be a genius effectively and run with the scene in any direction he feels called to. And it's a joy to be around.
And that show has such a great element of drama and comedy. There's so much heart in that show. Ted Lasso, totally. He's a sad person who's happy on the outside. Roy Kent, played by Brett Goldstein, right? He's an angry guy, but also has some very funny moments. And
right.
I like my secret favorite, not even my secret favorite. My MVP is Juno Temple. I forget the name of her character.
She's the best.
My secret MVP is her.
Keely.
So this is a fun story. So I auditioned for Keely.
Wow.
2 years ago now.
What?
And before I knew, I was like, also like, what's this show? It's about an American football coach. Like, I was like, what is this? I didn't quite get it. And I did audition for Keely. I had a really fun time. Obviously, the queen that is Juno Temple is destined to play the role. She's so phenomenal in it. Like, she's unbelievably funny and heartfelt and charming, and she just makes you fall in love with her, like, every time she comes on screen. So I was like, great, amazing. Like, you do a million auditions as an actor, you let it go. A lot of people, I fully believe, like, every character is like chooses the person to play them. Like, I have no qualms about that. Anyway, then I think they asked me to audition for some role like last year, and I did a really terrible audition. It was like 2 lines or something, and I just like sent a tape, and I looked it back the other day, and it was awful. I was like, God, I can't believe I sent that. And then what happened is I was on holiday in America visiting my boyfriend. They just called me out of the blue, and they were like, would you come and play this part? I didn't audition for it, which never happens really that often as an actor. And so what I didn't clock until I got on set, and Brent, who plays Coach Beard, who is actually one of my favorite characters. I love Coach Beard.
Yeah.
And then I met him in real life. He is just the most brilliant person. And I instantly fell in love with him. And he very sweetly said to me that they'd been trying to get me on the show for a while, and had remembered me from that, I guess, from the very first tape, and had been trying to find a place for me to exist in the show. So
awesome.
it was a really beautiful.
So what you're saying is...
No, but like, wait. I just have to say, here are these two things. These two, like Ted Lasso, as we call it, the bomb that soothed, this last year for
balm,
us.
BALM.
Bomb,
right?
Bomb, not ball. Bomb, like a
bomb.
Soothe.
It sounds like you're saying bomb, like it's
bomb,
the bomb, like it's 1954.
like,
no, I'm talking about like it's like the chamomile tea, but it's like that's like a bad. But you know what I mean? It's like it was just this most wholesome. When you watch it, you feel like there's just this shining light. And then Sofia is that as a human to me. So it's like a person, like, so the coming together of those two things. It's just
it makes sense that she was on the show, that they finally got her
sense.
to be
Serendipity.
Also,
but I feel like that's there's like no better compliment, Sophia. That's pretty cool.
I know. Do you know what? When you told me that, I was like, I didn't. I'm quite chatty. I didn't know what to say. I was like, wow, okay, thank you.
So
that's very cool.
So what you're saying is that Jason Sudeikis remembered you more from 2 lines than I did from hanging out with you at Becky's wedding.
Entire wedding weekend.
Right. So if I'm past act you, Shy, like that would be why.
Okay, so now we're going to, because you are part of the family, we want to play some of the
stack up a bit more.
Traditional Friday night movie games.
Okay.
The signature game of Friday Night Movie is buy, rent, and meh. So we give you 3 things. We give you 3 things, and you may assign a value to them of buy, rent, or meh, but you can't assign the same value to 2 things. So we're going to give you a choice of 3 things, like 3 options. Okay, you got it?
Right.
And because you're London, we're going with a little bit of a British-based film thing. And so, so first let's start with some rom-coms, okay? British rom-coms.
My favorite genre.
Rom-coms. Bridget Jones, Love Actually, and 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Buy, rent, or meh.
Can't do that.
Yeah, we're mean. We forgot to tell you that part.
That's really mean, guys. Bridget Jones, 4 Weddings, or
I feel like this one is easy. I feel like this one is easy.
Okay, Lily will go first. Lily will show you how to do it.
Okay, go on.
I'll show you how to do it. Okay. Bridget Jones is a buy 100 times forever.
That's 100% my meh, Lily. That is 100% my
that movie is my buy, and like to the point where like the VHS tape like has to be like renewed because you've watched it so many times. You just like need to get a new one. Then I'm going to rent Love Actually, I guess, because it has some really good scenes, even though I don't think that movie's that good. But it has some good stuff in it. And I would
That's my buy number 1.
Blah. And then I would have rented instead 4 Weddings and a Funeral, except Andie MacDowell's character is the worst ever.
Okay. All right.
Like I cannot deal with her character, so I'm gonna meh that movie, but the movie's a better movie than Love Actually.
Also, I feel like
her character is actually unbearable.
That movie's iconic. So, I feel like that movie brought us the British rom-com. You don't have the Hugh Grant rom-com without 4 Weddings and a Funeral. It was nominated for an Oscar, Lily.
Which is hilarious. So, but no, that movie is the best movie of the 4. But Andie MacDowell, she's fantastic. I love her, but that character, ugh.
So, Sophia, we won't yell at you the way we just argued, but that's sort of how it is.
Yes. Okay, controversial.
And because it's your profession, like you get your outs. Like if you really don't want to like offend anyone, we're not going to.
I mean, I love all 3 of those movies, and they're all on my roster. So,
obviously, like Shy, nobody's actually like these are all good movies. Everybody agrees.
We're not going to tell Andie MacDowell.
Okay, thanks. Or the working title people who are currently employing me to be Lady Marjorie made all 3 of those films. Is where I'm going with this. Like that's the hard thing. Okay, it's actually easier for me because I have a very good reason for all the decisions, which is I would definitely buy a wedding, just because the opening line of that show is "fuck." Like it's so good.
It's true. That's
amazing. It's some of the best writing for rom-com for me. Like I get Andie MacDowell's character is total wacko, but like also. You kind of get them, and like this, and also it's nostalgic for me. Like the scenes around the National, the scenes around the South Bank, the scenes around London. Like it's so much the culture that I grew up in. It's got so much nostalgia. The performances are amazing. I'll never forget the poem that he recites for his lover when he died. Is like when I remember I was like 12 years old.
It's so beautiful.
Like,
I remember.
So much,
that
like,
stuck
Stop
with
the
me
Clock.
since.
That is it.
So
Auden? I can't remember. I think it's W.H. Auden. And if I got that wrong, anyone please don't come at me. But like,
let's be clear. No one on this podcast knows what poem.
No. Stop the Clocks, what was it? Stop the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Like, it's just one of the most beautiful poems, and he reads it. So
it is Auden. You're right. It is W.H.
Thank you. So that one, and then I rent Bridget Jones because you got to rent that every Valentine's Day. Like, if you're not, what are you doing with your life? And then I love Love Actually for so many reasons, but I think for the purposes of this game, I can I love it. You know what? I could quote you probably the whole thing from my head anyway, so let's meh it because I don't need to watch it.
That's a great use of meh. We always tell people meh is interpretive, and for you, it's mixed. You're like, I got it right up here. Don't need to watch it.
All right, let's do some aliens and zombies. Okay. Ooh. Attack the Block, starring the great John Boyega. 28 Days Later, starring zombies. It's the guy who wakes up.
Cillian
Murphy, the guy who wakes up and the world's been eaten. And then Shaun of the Dead with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
That's easier for me to say because I've seen Shaun of the Dead. I haven't seen the other two. It's not true. I've seen half of Attack the Block and I really loved it. So let's go with Shaun of the Dead, also because it's just hilarious. Let's go Shaun of the Dead for the buy. I will rent 28 Days Later because I haven't seen it, and I'll Attack the Block because I didn't stay the whole way through. So there we go.
Okay,
great answer.
They just announced they're making a sequel.
Easy and simple.
Right. Now we're gonna go.
I saw that.
Now we're gonna go with play adaptations, and we couldn't even think of 3 play adaptations. So
you're gonna love this.
Okay, so the first one Becky. Is because that I have an obsession with cats, right? So like we actually recently had on the show the hosts of a special fan podcast of cats. Cats takes place in London. Oliver Twist, may I please have some more?
Love it.
And Lily's only contribution, she was like Shakespeare in
That
London.
wasn't me. That wasn't me. That's
It wasn't a play.
No, exactly. No, but it's about theater.
We couldn't. All the Shakespeare plays are in London.
You know what you could do? The King's Speech. The King's Speech.
The King's Speech. Okay, the King's Speech. There we go. Okay, I'm switching.
You could also Dum-Dums do any actual Shakespearean play.
No, because
that's made into
they take place in Italy and Denmark and all those places.
But also,
right, it had to be
The Father, which is nominated for an Oscar this year. The Father was a play.
Was a play?
That has now got,
it is not like
I felt like Shakespeare in Love was enough about theater. It was like, it's about plays, so that works.
Fine.
All right,
there we go.
Cats, Oliver Twist, and the King's Speech.
King's Speech is the buy, obviously.
Not obviously in this crowd.
That's true. I would say the rent is the Cats because I haven't seen. I love Cats. I saw the musical growing up a ton of times.
Oh,
and Andrew Webber, by the way, I am an Andrew Webber huge super fan. Like I'm talking about I know Starlight. I can sing Starlight Express to you. Like I'm an Andrew Webber fan.
I saw Starlight Express as a kid in London.
Right? And Sunset Boulevard.
So
I remember I like, as well as the fact that Phantom of the Opera, I was obsessed with it when I was a kid. So like I love Andrew Webber and I haven't seen Cats and I probably should watch it even though it was hilarious by all accounts.
You should
I would rent Cats. Well, just because there's
I tweet at people and
oh wait.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot I had a Cats audition. I got to tell you about that. Okay, go on.
Well, no, I tweeted people who are like podcasters who are thinking of doing an episode about cats, or just people who are like, "What should I do?" And I'll be like, "I will come on and I will make you love that movie when you're done. I will defend." That's one of my superpowers.
Shall I give you a laugh? Shall I hand you off? And what was the mess for me then is Oliver Twist, just because I love Dickens, but like it's too dramatic. That whole thing, that story. Like I watched it when I was young, and I was like, "This is depressing. This is really sad." So I'll mess that. But wait, I auditioned for Cats the movie. Shy.
Yes.
The movie.
That's amazing.
Oh my God, tell us about
for any specific cat.
But Becky, did you think she meant theater production?
I don't know. Maybe there's like a stage production she was auditioning
No,
for.
I auditioned for the Tom Hooper movie.
Because you can sing.
Wait, can you say which cat you auditioned for?
Like? Sophia can sing.
Yeah,
people.
Bomb Ballerina, I believe.
Well, Taylor Swift got that in the end, so I think that like you don't have to feel.
Well, I think it's the song that Bomb Ballerina sings in the musical, but they changed it in the movie to be two dancers.
Oh, in Rum Tum Tugger, the Rum Tum Tugger song, she's one of the singers in that one, I think.
But it's like two
McCavity.
Two cats.
McCavity sings it in this play. So it's McCavity. That's the one that Taylor Swift ended up singing.
So maybe I got it wrong, but I can actually, I can look at my phone right now because I got the email. Should I look at it?
Goodness, this is like.
And I'll tell you the story as talking about it.
Did you have to like lap up?
Why do we spend all that time on the groundbreaking "We Are Lady" parts? We could have
been talking about the Cats audition.
Can I tell you honestly, it was one of the worst auditions of my life, and I tell people this all the time.
Honestly,
swear to God.
Tell us honestly.
No, like in the best way, in the best way possible. I tell people about it all the time to make them laugh. I went up for 2 different roles. So here we go. So I can't. The casting director is an amazing casting director who's brought me in for a couple of things, and she knows me and likes me. Demeter.
Oh,
Demeter.
Best friends of Bomb Ballerina.
So Demeter in the play sings McCavity. In the film, they gave the whole McCavity song to Bomb Ballerina for Taylor Swift.
And me and all the rest of the girls were so shit that Taylor took over, clearly. So I'll never forget this. We go into this thing, and Lucy Bevan's the casting director, and she knows me, and she's a wonderful, amazing woman, and she knew that I could act and sing, but she was like, "Can Sofia dance?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be honest. I'm a really good mover and I will catch up to any choreography eventually. But like, no, I'm not a dancer." And they were like, "That's fine. We know you sing, we know you act. Can you just go straight to meet Tom Hooper he's on set. Like the production was underway and it was in Pinewood Studios, I believe." So I'm like, okay, fine. So I've got my song. I've acted with Lucy. So like, no problem. I rock up and I remember I asked someone who auditioned for Cats previously how hard is the choreography. He's like, "It's not that hard. It's like five different sections of choreography you have to learn, and they'll teach it with you there." I go into this room, and it's immediately a huge studio, and I've got all the costumes. Like it's like a movie of it. Like the whole costumes for the films are there. Everyone's there. The production team, all the dancers are walking in and out, and they're auditioning this. And it's a row of men with Tom in the middle and a video camera. Like not a tiny, they've got a full, and they're videoing us in this audition. And it's they're like a dance, and it's not even like I'm talking about a little 1-2 step. I'm talking pirouette, 7 in one direction, 1 in the other direction, up and down. This is not my bag at all. And the crazy thing is, they were like, the other people were going to be singers and actors too. They were gazelles. They were like gazelles in human outfits. They were all these. They were like these sinewy, beautiful women who were just made of like animal like movement. And then there's me, and I was like, holy shit, I'm going to embarrass myself so much. And like we started off with the dance part, and obviously what happened was the dance captain actually at one point had to come over to me and be like, "What are you doing?" And I was just like, "Mate, at this point, it's a hilarious thing that's happened in films where everyone's turning one way and I'm turning the other way. Like it's a disaster, and I'm right in the middle, and I'm just failing and flailing miserably. And I literally was like, "Mate, why are you even asking me this? Like, you don't have to waste your time checking on me. We all know this is a lost cause right here." And I just like took that as a moment. I remember I could walk out of this audition right now. It was a great moment in my personal career because I was like, "Oh, I could just laugh this as an amazing experience where you're just gonna." Like, they're filming me. They're laughing. They can see I cannot do this. So, like, what am I going to feel shit and inadequate and, like, start to have a crap time? Or I can just have a great time and congratulate myself for, like, not literally, like, walking out and, like, actually being able to keep some kind of time along with it. To the point that even the head of the choreography was like, "Yeah, you, like, you know, you're all right." I'm like, "I'm definitely not." And then it was great because we got to the singing part and I smashed that and I felt really good about it. So I was like, okay, y'all can know that I'm a terrible dancer in this respect, but at least I managed to show you what I could do and feel good about that. So it was the worst audition in many ways, but the best outcome for
you're
me,
such a trooper. You have so much grace, and you're such a trooper, and like good.
I know.
So we want to be.
I think it's good for your humility. It's like great to be laughed at every once in a while. Like it's good for the soul.
So we want to be mindful of your time. We always wrap up the show with what we call shout outs and recommendations. So if there's something you want to recommend or shout out to, my shout out and recommendation for me this time, because I always have to go at the end, but I'm just going to go quickly. I recommend We Are Lady Parts. It's going to drop on June 3rd on Peacock. Everyone should watch it. And if you want a musical show that's a totally different musical genre, but to get yourself ready for it, that's also on Peacock, Girls 5 Eva. Lily recommended it to me. It is hilarious. It's Tina Fey's new show. It's about a girl group from the 90s that reunites. And so, like, it's the perfect, like, segue from that to We Are Lady Parts. And it's totally a send-up of the Spice Girls. And all of that. So it's.
I think they complement each other.
Yeah, they complement each other. Really. They're very different vibes, but they complement each other. So.
Oh my God! Thank you. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Shai. I'm going to go watch that.
Awesome. All right. So Sophia,
you have to let us know.
Oh, actually, do you have any shout outs or recommendations? Things people should watch or see?
I mean, it's old, but I'm rewatching, and just because I'm watching the new season now, it's Call My Agent. It's one of my favorites, the French TV show.
Oh yeah, never seen it, but. Is it good?
My God. If you haven't, it's phenomenal on Netflix. It's so brilliant just because the writing is phenomenal. You will, like my mom, who doesn't speak French at all, like was watching it behind me and was like pissing herself laughing just because the writing even translates even across the language, and to the point that you were just like, wow, they're so well written, these characters. It's kind of like Entourage in the sense it gives you a sneak peek into the behind the scenes of the movie and acting and entertainment world, which is so delightful when they get that right, and they kind of really do a send up of like what that experience is like. And what's amazing is some of the best actors from stage and screen do appearances as themselves. You've got like Isabelle Huppert, Monica Bellucci, Sigourney Weaver. Like they'll all come on and play versions of themselves, like with their eccentricities. The writing's amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so good. It's really fun, and the acting's phenomenal. And then shout out, I would say to, I don't know, is that a shout out? Is a rec? A rec is a shout out, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We call it shout outs and recs because it sounds like Parks and Recs, but it's like
I got that. I like it. Okay. I'm watching Mayor of Easttown right now as well, but super different, and it's very, very
brilliant.
What?
A couple people have recommended Mayor of Easttown. A couple people have recommended that.
I've been watching Mr. Mayor with Ted Danson and Vella Lavelle, who plays Heather on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Lily, and it's a really cute show. I've been watching it with the kids. It's like Parks and Rec kind of light.
Nice.
Becky, shout outs and recs.
I mean, this week I watched We Are Lady Parts. I believe I watched other things, but it was eclipsed.
We watched Mighty Ducks together last night.
Watched Mighty Ducks.
Episode 9 of Mighty Ducks.
But I honestly think I did watch other things, but it's eclipsed by having seen this, because now everything else was like, well, that just clearly wasn't as good or important because this is my new favorite show. So, yeah.
And Lily, how about you?
You've literally both have said all of mine. So
but I just want to hear how it's going with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
I haven't had a chance. I've been watching Weird Lady Parts, so I haven't had a chance to keep going. But I will just preface, that recommendation by saying I thought that show was like unbearable. Like the idea of like there's like singing like in every single episode, and like every single episode's a musical. I was like, why do I have to watch this? And it so grows on you, and it's so well done, and it's really endearing. And so I definitely, it's like ends up being like your go-to show. So that show's did a big 180 in my book. So I definitely recommend it.
So one of our things that happens on the show is that eventually if someone watches a show and
I'm not there yet, but I'm
your
close.
Recommendation, they have to bestow you with the highest award in our show, which is called an I Told You show. And so I'm just building the case here. As we wrap up, Sophia, where can people follow you? Where should they watch you? Give us your, as my co-host on the Gold Nerd says, give us your digits.
My digits.
Not your actual digits.
No, actually,
your handle.
Don't give those out on the podcast. Don't give those out on the podcast.
No, I'm on Instagram at Sofia Barclay, which I've got my name, which is pretty great. And then, doing We Are Lady Parts, Ted Lasso, a couple other things probably coming your way. And then Text for You is coming out Valentine's Day 2022. So that's where you can follow this one.
Oh, that's exciting.
Mug.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back.
Oh my God, I love it. Come back. This is my first podcast. Like, this is amazing. I'm so honored.
This is awesome.
Yay.
Hold all of them to this standard.
I absolutely will.
Yes.
Except that we're totally taking advantage of your time because we know you have to go.
No, are you kidding? I feel like I'm around the kitchen table and I'm like, where's the next bit? Like, serve the next course. Let's keep going.
This show is supposed to be.
That is the spirit of it. That is the spirit.
Invite people into our family, which is funny because when we invite people who are like, what's the big deal about that? They're like, okay, I'll do your podcast. Most of the time they come out being like, oh, okay, I'd like that.
You know what we should do next time is like we should all be eating the same thing. Oh no, but we wouldn't be intelligible then. We wouldn't be. Me and Becky would just be eating the whole time. Actually,
it's true.
You guys would be enjoying.
Maybe we'll have a snack first.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Well, we can do it. I have a mobile setup. We can do it in person and eat while we.
Oh my God, I love that.
I'll do the muting.
Although, will you remember me, Shai? That's the question. Like,
I can't forget you now. You played Zarina Z in my new show.
Oh, fine. Fine.
And you auditioned for Cats. Are you kidding? This is like.
I did. 2 weeks from now, he'll be like, Becky, who is that friend of yours that auditioned for Cats? What was her name again?
Most importantly, you're such an important friend to Becky, and that means so much to Lily and me. Not only because it's good to be able to pawn Becky off on other people, but because we as siblings, that is like it's so like we take care of each other all the time. Even this year where we were separated from each other, we took care of each other. And then Becky moved next door to me, which is the best.
Well, do you know what's funny is that it's very that's very silly of you to say, but it's also very reflective of my family. I've got a sister and a brother, and I moved back to England in coronavirus, and like my brother lives next door, and I saw him the entire way through. So it feels, I completely love and appreciate that message. And yeah, I think it's super important. I think that, but I'm constantly like, yeah, give me any family vibes all the time. Like, this is just where I want to hang all the time.
When we started the show, we called it a love letter to our children. Like, at the very least, they would have hundreds of hours of which they do now, hundreds of hours of recordings of the three of us just being the three of us, and that there would that wouldn't be lost to time. Lily, where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter, ChiChik Gomez on the Twitter. That's it.
And you can follow me at Paper BK Princess on Twitter. And
you can follow me at Pancake and the number 4 table, Pancake 4 table on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow all of the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Fry Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram, or FridayNightMoviePod.com. Please join us in supporting, or at least checking out and then supporting, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the Equal Justice Initiative, and the Asian American Journalists Foundation, all organizations that we think are doing great things for American democracy. And please check those out. And also, please check out on June 3rd, We Are Lady Parts, an amazing new show that Sofia, our amazing guest, who we're so grateful for being here, was in. And episode 4 and 5, those are the best two. And the theme music will kick in. It's by What Does It Eat in post-production, so that's why you don't hear it, Sofia. In all the years of us doing this, I still haven't figured out how to reliably turn on the theme music. And with that, we will dance our way into the evening and say bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.